Hey, this is Jessica with the Mindful Mentor, where I teach math mindfully. For today's Homeschool Resource Demo video, we're going to be looking at the online program IXL. It's an awesome program that can be personalized for your student and can help them get targeted practice in math, English, social studies, and science, and they have an add-on for Spanish as well. It uses a detailed diagnostic test to give you an idea of what grade level your student is at and to tell you exactly what sections they still need a little bit of practice on, and then it will assign them the exact sections that they need to help them practice the exact skills that they need practice on. So let's take a look at what IXL looks like.
Okay, so let's take a look at what IXL is like. And if you use the link in the description below, then you can sign up for a 7-day free trial. So that way you can test it out and see if it is actually something that you and your student would like. And you also could have your student take the diagnostic test in that time if you're really just looking for a way to find out what grade level your student's at and what things they need more work on. You could take the diagnostic in that 7-day time, and then if you don't want to keep it, then you could cancel it. But it's also super helpful as a resource to keep, because once you've taken that diagnostic test, then it will pinpoint the things that your student needs to work on, and it will assign them lessons based on their results from the diagnostic. So it actually is really helpful. So I'm going to show you with just the single subject. They've got the options where you can just pick either like just math or just language arts. You can do a combo where you have access to both. So after the free trial, the single subject is going to be about $10 a month. If you do the combo where they have access to math and language arts, that's about $16 a month. And then you can also choose this package where you get access to all. So they have math, language arts, science, and social studies all together. And then I think there's also a section, oh yes, sorry, down here you can add Spanish extra for $5 a month as well. So I'm just going to do the single subject right now, and I'm going to do it for math. I've signed up for your free trial. Then you can get started looking around IXL and trying it out. Like I said, I signed up just for math. So when I go to learning, we've got the math section here, and then it's organized by grade level. So you can pick whatever grade level if you want. If you just want to pick things for your student to get started working on right away, you can go to the grade level and see all the skills they have there. But usually the best thing to do first is to take the diagnostic assessment, because that's what's going to help you find out where your children are at, and what topics they already have mastered and what things they need more practice on. So right now I'm signed in as a parent. So you can see up here it says welcome parent. That's how you can tell that we're on the parent version. And then if you click on here, then I can switch to the student. And then once the student has signed in, the best thing for them to do first is to go to the assessment and to start the diagnostic assessment. And you just do that by clicking step into the arena. And it's going to give you a bunch of diagnostic questions to try and get an idea of where your student is at. And so here it just gives you a choice of whichever one you want to pick to start from. And since it has no idea where you're at, it's going to start you with something really basic. So even if your student's in middle school or high school, it's going to start them with something easy. Once it can tell that they already know all this stuff, then it will move them on to harder and harder things. And then once it gets to problems that they don't know the answer to, then it will start to get a better idea of what level they're at. So right here, if you can answer this question, or if a student gets to one that they don't know the answer to, like it's something that's beyond their grade level, then they click I don't know this yet, and then that gives IXL an idea that, okay, they haven't learned this, and we're going to put this on their learning plan. So here, this is 4 times 4 equals 16, and it tells you if you got it right. And for they're like, okay, looks like you're good on that. And then you just keep going, taking a bunch of diagnostic questions. Examples of the types of questions they would ask. So if they get it wrong, it tells them that they got it wrong. And so they know that that's something that they'd have to try again later. Over here, they've got this little symbol here. You can click it and it will read the problem to them. So as you can see, the more problems you do, now these are getting harder and harder, obviously, from the ones that we started with. And then, so once you've answered enough questions in the diagnostic on a certain level, then it will tell you that it's starting to kind of narrow down your range in that level. And so up here, you'll eventually get to a part where you can see your levels based off of what they've already answered. So if we click that, then this will show you kind of your answers or your progress based off of what you've answered so far. So see, it breaks it down into different sections of like different categories of math that they are working on. So these are the types of things that I've already done problems in. And so I've got a pretty high level in this section here. I've got a pretty low score, but that doesn't mean that I'm at that level in numbers and operations. That just means I haven't really answered enough questions for them to get a good idea. Right here, since the score was so high, they don't have any skill to recommend for me to practice because they feel like I'm already got enough practice in that. But here, since my score is pretty low, they do have a skill recommended for me that I could practice to try and help with the ones that I got wrong here. And so right now it's pretty empty because I haven't done a whole lot on this diagnostic, but the more questions you answer, then it will start to give you questions more on fractions and geometry and measurement and data and all of these different categories. And then you'll start to see scores in all these categories. But you see right now it's a range, right? It's giving you a range of numbers. But once you have completed enough questions in the diagnostic, and the number of questions that are required is different for each student because it just depends on, like, IXL has to give them however many they need in order for it to get a good idea of what they know. So if it gets like, it's probably not going to assign me any more questions in this topic because it's got a good idea of what I know there. And once I've done enough of these kinds, then it will stop giving me questions on that. So it has to have enough information to learn where your student is at. And so I can't tell you the diagnostic is 50 questions or 20 questions or 100 questions because it can be different for every student. And so it's just based off of how they do and then however much it's going to need to get accurate data. And once it does have accurate data, then it's going to have one single number here that will tell you basically what your student's diagnostic score is. And in general, in IXL, the numbers in your score is telling you the grade level. So like if it starts with a 2, this means second grade, but 290, this means like the end of second grade. And then 4, it would be fourth grade, but 490 is like the end of fourth grade. So since I've only answered a couple questions here, and I had put the wrong answer for one of them to show what it would look like if it was wrong, it's saying that I'm between an end of second grade to end of fourth grade level. So like I said, once you've answered enough questions, instead of having a bunch of ranges here, it's going to have one single number, and it's going to say like your diagnostic score is 750. Which if your student took the diagnostic and their single final score was 750, that would mean that they're right about at a middle of 7th grade level. And that's the whole point of this diagnostic, is for them to get a grade level idea of where they're at, and then to start making recommendations like this based off of the kinds of things that they need more help on, that they could see. And so it's really important that you make sure your student, that you tell them they need to be answering these as accurately as possible. If there is something that they do know how to do, make sure they take their time and actually do it correctly. And if there's something that they've never seen or they don't remember and they're not sure how to do it, then they can click I don't know this, or skip it, or guess, or whatever they need to do. But just make sure that they're being as accurate as possible when they're answering these, because that's going to affect their recommendations. So if they're just like breezing through and clicking I don't know on everything, then the recommendations are going to start recommending them things that are way too easy for them, and they're going to be super bored. So it's really important to get some accurate results on your diagnostic. And so I haven't finished the full diagnostic yet. I'm just going through it to show you what it's going to look like. But once the student has finished their complete diagnostic and has a final score, and that means that they've answered questions in all the different categories. So IXL has the best idea of what kind of things they need to do. And if you click back on this learning section, then it will take you here, and then the recommendations tab. All of these are recommended problems based off of the student's results on their diagnostic test. See, so this is what I was talking about. If they just clicked through all the questions on the diagnostic and didn't actually answer it accurately, they're going to get way too basic, easy things here, like things that are just so much easier than they need to be doing, and they're going to be super bored. But this is the part that I think is really cool about IXL, is once the students have accurately taken their diagnostic, then you don't have to assign them any sections to work on. They don't have to try and figure out where to go. If they just go to this recommendations tab, then it's just going to give them tons of different sections that are recommended for them based off of their personal results. So it's all personalized. It's awesome that your student doesn't have to guess. You don't have to guess what should they be working on. This is exactly what the diagnostic has decided they should be working on to fill in the gaps that it found. So now let's click on a section and see what it looks like when you're working on one of the sections that it assigned. So I purposely got some answers wrong in some of the easier level, so it's assigning me some 4th grade level things. And so let's click on this section and look at what the assigned problems would be like. Okay, so when you're working on a section in IXL, it just gives you a problem. Sometimes it gives you multiple choice options to choose. Sometimes it's fill in the blank or a graph or a picture, and then you just answer it. And over here, it will keep track of how many you've answered, how long you've been working, and then it gives you a SMART score. So what is this in standard form? 5,413. And when I press submit, it tells me if I got it right or wrong. And then if I got it right, my SMART score is going to go up. And usually the goal is to get to a SMART score of at least 90. And then from 90 on is considered like challenge and like extra practice, because IXL considers it once you've gotten a score of 90 that's pretty much mastered. And then over here also it's got a way that they can write on the board. So the students could write this out before they actually answer it. So this one doesn't really require a ton of work to write out, but if they want to, they can write on the board here and then come over and type their final answer. See, so the SMART score doesn't go up by 10 every single time. See, like the first problem, I got 10 points. The second one, I got 9 points. It starts giving you less and less points the more problems you do. So it's not like it's only going to take them 9 problems to get up to 90. They'd have to do several to get up to 90 because they give you less and less with each question. And then if you get one wrong, so let's just type in an incorrect answer here. When you get it wrong, it shows you what the right answer is, and then it gives an in-depth explanation of why that's the correct answer. So it shows this is what you put, and then it explains how to do it correctly. So it shows them all the steps for how to do it and then why this is the correct answer. And you see it took my SMART score down a little bit because I got that one wrong. So let's keep going and get a few more right to bring up the SMART score, and then we'll see what happens when we get some wrong again. Okay, and so say I'm on a section that IXL assigned me because I didn't do well on it in the diagnostic, and I didn't do well because I don't really know it that much, and I need some help. And so what's cool about IXL is it's also got over here, you can click to watch a video about something if you're ever stuck on it.
Today, we are going to convert between standard and expanded form. What's the difference? Let's take a look. Here is the number 15,872. This is written in standard form. Expanded form is another way to write the same number. 15,872 written in expanded form looks like 10,000 plus 5,000 plus 800 plus 70 plus 2. How did we get from the standard form to the expanded form? Let's look at the digits of 15,872 in a place value chart. Now, going from left to right, we see that the value of the 1 is 1/10,000, which is 10,000. The value of the 5 is 5,000s, which is 5,000. The value of the 8 is 800s, which is 800. The value of the 7 is 7/10s, which is 70. and the value of the 2 is 2 ones, which is 2. Once we write the plus signs in between all of those values, we've got our number in expanded form. Now, if we rewrote this sum vertically
or down here, it says if you're not feeling ready yet, it tells you what things you could work on, or it takes you to lessons that will help kind of explain the things that you need to know in order to do the section you're on. So let's just keep going until we get to a SMART score of 90, just to show you what that would be like. Okay, so see, my SMART score keeps going up, and let's just get another one wrong just to show what happened. So I'm at 54 and I get this one wrong, brought me down to 49. And then again, it shows the explanation of what you had put and why this would be the correct answer and like how to work it out. And then usually once you've done several questions and gotten a bunch right, then it starts giving you kind of harder types of questions in that same section. So first it gave me expanded form and had me write it in standard form. And now we're going the opposite direction. It's giving me a standard form, a number in standard form, and we have to expand it out. So it's not just going to be a bunch of the exact same type of problem. The more you do, and once it starts to see that you're good on one type, then it starts to get a little bit harder and harder. And so once you get closer and closer to 90, you start earning less and less points per correct one. And it starts to take off more and more for each one that you get wrong. So sometimes that can be a little difficult for students who get so close and then they get one wrong and it pushes them way back. I know I've heard a lot of students getting pretty frustrated with that, but most of the students who I've talked to who have been very frustrated by that were public school students whose teacher had said, you have to get to 90 by tomorrow for your homework. And then they tell me that they stayed up hours and hours working on it because as soon as they'd get close to 90, they would miss one and it would push them all the way back. And they were stressed because their teacher required them to get to 90. But in homeschool students, I haven't had any of them really complaining about that because it's so much less pressure. It's not going in the grade book. Maybe their parent told them to get to 90, but they could show their parent at home, like, I got so close, but I just made a small mistake and it pushed me back. And so they're less stressed about it because it's not quite as big of a deal. So that's just something to point out. It is something that can be kind of frustrating for some students, especially if you've got maybe like a perfectionist student who has to get that 90 or 100% and then ends up spending all day working on this one section because they got so close, but they keep making a small mistake or something like that. So just something to keep in mind. So let's see. So I'm at 81. And if I get one wrong here, let's see how much it brings it down. See, so it brought it down 6 points here when I got it wrong. But if I get this one right, let's see how many points it would give me. Okay, so that one gave me only 3 points. See, so it brought me down by like 5 or 6, I can't remember, when I got it wrong, but it only brought me up by 3 when I got it right. See, so I'm getting really close to 90, but that doesn't just mean I have one more problem. It's probably going to take me a few more to get there. Okay, see, so now I'm at 89. So let's get this one wrong again. Because see, this is what students will get to 89 and be like, look, I almost got 90. And then they get this one wrong and brought them all the way back down to 83. But then they get the next one correct. It only brought them up 2 to 85. So that's just something to note, something to point out. That's where I've seen some students have a little bit of frustration. But like I said, the frustration mostly comes from the amount of pressure that is put on getting that 90 score. If they have less pressure because they're doing it for homeschooling and they're literally just doing it for practice and not an actual like grade in their grade book, the stress level is way lower and it's not really the issue that I've seen it be in public school. Okay, so one more to get to 90 and then we'll see what that's like. So once you get to 90, then it says now you're in the challenge zone. So like you can still have them get to 100. This is just technically considered a challenge zone, and a score of 90 is considered having mastered it. So the recommendation section is awesome for having your student practice the things that are targeted to them, the things that the diagnostic showed that they need a lot of help on. Or if you're like, no, I don't want it to pick random things for them to work on based off of their diagnostic. I'd rather have a set kind of schedule of things that they should work on. Like my students in 5th grade, and I want them to just work all the way through 5th grade. The way you could do that is if you go to the math section here. So mine right now is set to 4th grade based off of the problems that I was doing in the diagnostic test. So here, these are where you'll find all of the topics, the math topics for 4th grade. And they're not necessarily in the order that you would learn them in if you were taking like a 4th grade math class. These are just all the sections. They're in a pretty logical order, but it's not necessarily the order that you would do if you were doing a 4th grade math curriculum or something. And so one of my favorite things is the weekly plans that they have here. So if you click on that tab, then this gives you 32 weeks just like laid out day by day of what skills that they could work on and what order and everything. And so I use IXL a lot with my homeschool tutoring students, and some of them don't have a math curriculum that they use, and we just use IXL and we work through it together. And so if we're on week 1, we'll just start there and go in order. And I love that this gives you kind of just a laid out way day by day to see what they should be working on. You can just tell them, okay, this is week 1. So by the end of this week, you should have hopefully a score of at least 90 on all of these sections. And they can get it done as quickly or as slowly as they want. Or if you want them to literally just do 1 per day, then that's fine too. I just really like this weekly plan here. I think it's very helpful for figuring out a schedule that they can easily follow, and that you can, like I said, you can tailor it and tell them to do however much or little you'd like them to do per day. Or if you don't want to use the weekly plan and have them work through that in order, if you're like, I know my 4th grade student really needs a lot of practice with fractions with unlike denominators, then you don't have to follow the weekly plan and go in their order. You can go to this page here where they're just organized by topic. And if there's a topic you want them to work on, you can go find that. So here, if you wanted them to work on fractions with unlike denominators, you can go to this section, and then you can tell them, like as their parent, as their teacher, you can say, okay, today's assignment or this week's assignment is to do sections Q, 4, and 5 to practice those, and you have to get it to a score of at least 90. And so that's another thing that's nice about IXL is you don't have to go in any certain order. They've got everything laid out here, and so you can just pick exactly what you want your student to be working on. Or you can have a weekly plan all laid out for you if you don't have specific topics and you want them to just go through everything. Or if you really are not sure what you want them to work on, then you could go to the recommendation section, and that will pick sections for them based off of their diagnostic results. And then if you want to see how they're doing, then you can go back to the parent section of it, and it will show you these are the things that are being recommended to your student based off of their results. And if you go to the assessment level, or the assessment area, then you can see your kids' levels after they've taken their diagnostic assessment. This will show you what their levels are at and what kind of things are being recommended for them to work on. There's also the diagnostic plan down here that you can print. You can find where their trouble spots are. I haven't taken enough problems on my diagnostic for it to show what the trouble spots are, but if you wanted to see what they are for your student after they've done the diagnostic, then this would give you a list of the kind of things that they need to work on. Under the analytics section, you can see all kinds of information about what they've done. So if you go to the usage section, it will tell you how much, like if they told you they were signed in for 2 hours, you can come check and make sure they were signed in for 2 hours. It tells you how long they worked, how many skills they did, shows you their practice by day and the categories that they worked on. And then it shows you the details of each session when they signed in. Then here in the scores section is just another detailed chart of the things that they've mastered and that they need more practice in. And then this is very detailed, laid out all the different skills. So in section A, these are all of the different topics that they could work on, and it shows you which ones I've worked on in this category. And so this is a way for you to see everything that they've worked on
and the information about it, like their score and how long and when they worked on it.
I hope this video helped give you a good idea of what IXL is like and if it would be a good fit for you and your student. And if you are interested in signing up, click the link in the description below and you can start a 7-day free trial today. If you have any other questions about IXL that I didn't address in the video, let me know in the comments and I'll get your questions answered. And if you have other homeschool resources that you'd like to see demo videos for, let me know that in the comments too, and let me know what questions you have about them so I'll make sure I address everything you want to know.